center here if things continue the way they're going, because like literally schools in the area are starting to close down. It's getting crazy right now. I mean, wow, it's really crazy. And so there's possible fears now growing of a financial meltdown, at least on the scale of the 2008 crisis. They intensified Monday as global markets were gripped by panic resulting from the spreading of the coronavirus across the globe and ensuing oil price war that was launched by Saudi Arabia over the weekend. The fear today is global recession, said Thomas Hayes, chairman of the management firm Great Hill Capital, as the market's headed for their worst day since the 2008 crash. So again, I'm talking about today here. As the Washington, as the Washington Post reported Monday, the U.S. futures pointed to heavy losses on Wall Street on Monday. Overseas, London's FTSE 100 fell more than 8% to its lowest point in 3 years. Japan's Nikkei index slumped more than 5%, and Australia's benchmark shed more than 7%. Oil prices suffered the sharpest plunge since the 1991 Gulf War, while 10-year U.S. bonds yields dropped to a record low as investors sought safety. While some urged caution in interpreting the meaning of the daily market fluctuations, analysts said there is reason to fear the destructive economic crisis on the horizon. Chris Weston, head of the research at the Melbourne-based web trading platform Pepperstone, The Guardian, he told The Guardian that there is genuine panic in the market, noting that he hasn't seen anything like this for years. It's really crazy stuff, because this is something that, like, I mean, it's a crash that, like, there are economic possibilities for it to happen. Like, there's an economic groundwork that it could possibly happen, but it's really been instilled by something that really nobody has any control over. And the fact that we're so badly prepared for it, I guess, is something it's a human error, but it is really crazy. This is something that we didn't really have a good say and really a good this is something that can't entirely be blamed on the people, which is really kind of confusing, because there's no real way to stop it or fix it or prevent it from happening other than just like a better quarantine strategy, which is going to be a problem. Don't get me wrong about that. There definitely is going to be a problem with that, but it's really weird because we have not seen such a financial downturn caused by a disease in such a long time, because it's really it's getting to pandemic. It is really in pandemic proportions. Escalating market turbulence and warnings of a worldwide economic fallout came as the human toll of the coronavirus, officially known as COVID-19, continued to grow. Here's one of our top advisors on this, Ben Carson.
As you know, the Grand Princess the cruise ship is docking in Oakland tomorrow. What plan is in place to deal with the 3,500 people on board?
The cruise ship personnel, and as you know, the Vice President met with the CEOs of the major cruise ship companies yesterday. And they are coming up with a plan within 72 hours of that meeting.
The ship's docking tomorrow.
The plan will be in place by that time, but I don't want to preview the plan right now.
Shouldn't you be able to do that?
I think it needs to all come from a solitary source. We shouldn't have 16 people saying what the plan is.
Okay,
particularly when it hasn't been fully formulated.
Okay, well, you're the president's representative this morning, but let me move on.
Awesome stuff. So President Trump, for his part, told reporters on Friday that he would prefer the passengers remain aboard the Grand Princess, even though, like, some people have literally are dying of the I saw a story about this woman who's on this cruise ship that has like stage 4 cancer or something like that, needs to get off the ship because she's worried she's going to have it. She's she needs her treatment as well. Like, you can't just put people on a ship for as long as you want. And here's how this played out in Atlanta in the CDC meeting.
It's a very good question. From my standpoint, I want to rely on people. I have great experts, including our vice president, who's working 24 hours a day on this stuff. they would like to have the people come off. I'd rather have the people stay, but I'd go with them. I told them to make the final decision. I would rather, because I like the numbers being where they are. I don't need to have the numbers double because of one ship. That wasn't our fault. And it wasn't the fault of the people on the ship either.
But the people need to get treated.
And they're mostly Americans, so I can live either way with it. I'd rather have them stay on, personally. But I fully understand if they want to take them off. I gave them the authority to make the decision.
Wow. Yeah, it's absolutely crazy. So, this is the people that we have running the ship here. No pun intended. No callback intended. But it's really crazy stuff because it's like these people need to get off the ship because if they do not get off the ship, they will they will all get sick. Like, yeah, I mean, at least he can live with it either way. Like, that's the best we can hope for at this point. Like, hopefully he just refers to people who actually know what they're talking about. Let them make the decision. Oh my, it's crazy stuff. All right, so this is interesting stuff. We turn now to a fun story where we have Bernie Sanders securing the endorsement of the Reverend Jesse Jackson, endorsing Bernie Sanders for president, the most progressive social and economic path, giving us the best chance to catch up, and Senator Bernie Sanders represents the best progressive path, says Jesse Jackson. So, this endorsement from Jackson, who sought the Democratic nomination in 1984 and 88, came just a day after the U.S. Senator from Vermont held a rally in Chicago's Grant Park, attended by about 15,000 people. Jackson spoke Sunday at a Sanders campaign event in Grand Rapids, Michigan. Registered Democrats in Michigan, Idaho, Mississippi, Missouri, North Dakota, and Washington are slated to weigh in the party's presidential primary race on March 10th, followed by voters in Illinois, Arizona, Florida, and Ohio on March 17th. So that's what we see coming up. And these are all states where, I mean, if he really brings credibility with some of the black voters back and is able to prove to them that he can win over the next however many days until the next two weeks of primaries. But it's going to be very, very important for him to do that because that's how I think he really is able to gain credibility, especially with the older black voters all across the country. So, and this is a huge step because he's definitely a very respected figure. Like, he's not as well known, but just really to get the endorsement from him. Like, he's a guy who ran as a black guy in the 1980s. Like, imagine the racial animosity that probably went his way. It's really pretty crazy stuff. Just like 20 years after really the civil rights movement, like many of those quote unquote wounds were still very much raw in the minds of a lot of the Americans from what was going on there. And Bernie Sanders was like the only white politician who endorsed him. He got pretty far. He made the Democratic establishment incredibly nervous. Michael Dukakis was actually, funnily enough, the guy they ended up nominating, but it was really a crazy run for him because he was running on the same thing that Bernie Sanders is trying to do now. He's trying to build that rainbow coalition of multiracial, multicultural, working class people. And that's what Bernie Sanders is undisputably trying to do now. He's playing off that same playbook. He's running the same plays, I guess you could say, that Jesse Jackson ran back in the day. So it's very interesting to see that whole course take shape. So, all right, this is also pretty crazy. A former Vice President Joe Biden's outreach team is drawing criticism saying Friday that she would absolutely not vote for Bernie Sanders if the U.S. Senator from Vermont became the Democratic Party's presidential nominee. During an appearance on the Al Jazeera English program up front, Biden delegate candidate Lindy Lee said that if Sanders secures the nomination and faces up with President Donald Trump in November, I'm going to vote blue all the way down except for president. Take a look at this incredible exchange.
Linda, you said in an interview last month, because of the experiences you've had online, in particular with some Bernie supporters, you said that if he were to become the Democratic nominee, you said you would not vote for him.
Absolutely not.
So that means you would be, voting Trump, sitting at home?
I'm going to vote blue all the way down except for president.
So you're okay with a second Trump term?
I'm absolutely not okay with it, but I'm also almost probably equally terrified and traumatized by the prospect of a Sanders presidency.
Because they were mean to me online.
To the point where you would be okay with a Trump second term?
I'm not okay with it.
Well, by definition, you would be if you
I'm fighting
didn't.
like hell to make sure that Biden is a nominee. So
I accept that. I'm asking the hypothetical, which I will also ask Linda. If it is Bernie Sanders a nominee, you will not vote for him,
No,
even
I'm
if it
not
means a
going
Trump
to.
second term. Okay. Linda, are you a Bernie or bust, as some people on the left say? Is it Bernie Sanders or no one else for you?
So this is the translation of what I got from what Lindy just said, is that she doesn't care that Donald Trump will be able to appoint Supreme Court justices over his next 4 years and literally take us back maybe 50 to 100 years. So that's what you're saying, because you're saying that.
But what is your view, Linda? Linda, what is your view? Are you Bernie or bust, as the saying goes?
I've never been Bernie or bust. I'm not going to lie to you. I might have drew the line at Michael Bloomberg, but I know what's more important. It's not about my little feelings. It's not about being selfish and self-righteous. It's about protecting our communities and protecting generations to come. And I would hope that someone like Lindy would be part of that movement, but I guess she's not.
But just to be clear, you would vote for Joe Biden if he's the candidate come November.
That is funny.
It would be very hard for me, Mehdi, but I would do the right thing. But I would do the right thing, because that is the right thing to do.
Yeah, so that's the clip there, pretty much saying that. Yeah, Linda Sarsour is the other woman on the other end of the line there, the Bernie Sanders supporter, and then Lindy Lee, the Biden supporter, is like, that's not what it's. She's like, I'm voting Biden. I don't like it, but we got to protect our communities, whatever. And she's like, that's not what it is. I'm not about that at all. I don't care. Like, you can't get that much more telling. So this is kind of a dynamic I think we're going to really start to see a bunch of people saying that I cannot possibly support Bernie Sanders because his supporters were too mean to me online. All right, that's BS. We all know it's BS. And on that note, special reminder that we will be back tomorrow night to talk about Super Tuesday round 2, I guess, the March 10th primary states with special guests. So see you then. It's been Newsflash.